On this week's City Skylines 2 o'clock, citizen life path discussion, deeper economic simulations, confusing numeric information, and all this with this week's special guest, this old gamer.
Well, hello, and thanks for having me back on the program. Back by unpopular demand. Good to talk to you today, BonBonB.
The unpopular demand, as you'd be very surprised to hear, I have had an inbox full of emails, mostly from you, saying, can you come back on the show? Can you stop sending them to me?
Well, it wasn't very nice, too, that you started putting all my stuff in the spam box, but whatever.
I know. It's the only way to deal with you. Anyway, we have had a really busy week, City Skylines wise. In terms of the dev diaries, we've covered them on the channel already at quite depth. That said, though, I am interested to hear what you've got to say, what your your initial takebacks from episode 1, the road tools, was. So you may fire away.
Well, it was a well done presentation. I thought the voiceover work was great. I thought the information provided was pretty thorough without giving too much away. They don't want to jump too far forward. The roundabout feature is pretty neat, but I don't really use roundabouts all that much, but still pretty cool. A lot of questions, maybe more questions than answers come out of that. Well, I'm interested to see how this goes, but excited to see the next one.
Absolutely. It won't be too long incoming either, and we will be covering that with a live stream on this channel on the evening that this will be Monday evening of the release of the diary, so looking forward to that. Right, so there's plenty of other news. A lot of this has come through the Xbox website, where all the announcements for the console are going through, but of course that all carries across as well to the PC version, which of course is where our interest is. The quotes are mostly from Marina Halikainen, the CEO of Colossal Order, and the first one I want to go over is regarding citizens' life paths. So I'm going to read you the quote, and then I'll just let you strut your stuff and let me know what you think of it. So, citizens have been an integral part of City Skylines since the beginning. So in City Skylines 2, we wanted to give them more agency through the advanced AI and simulation, as well as a way to meaningfully voice their opinions about the city, which introduces the Life Path feature, which allows us to track our citizens, who they are, what they do, and where they're going at any time. Each citizen will have their own income and expenditures, and all of them are intertwined to affect the choices that they make, such as where they live, or where they want to shop, and how they want to get there. So what are your takeaways regarding life paths?
Well, I think this is an exciting feature that's, we saw the announcement somewhat of this feature when the game first was announced, and it's very interesting to see. I'm looking forward to seeing AI across the board, not only with citizens, but traffic and all that, which we'll see very soon. And, it's very intriguing. My citizens already seem to do whatever they want to do. So it's going to be interesting to see how the updated AI along with graphics and all that makes such a big difference.
Indeed, yeah. It depends how much depth. I can understand there's going to be a lot of depth, but if you've got a city with 500,000 citizens in it, it's going to be interesting to see how well a simulation can simulate how Mavis at number 1 wants to get to one location and how Steve at number 3 wants to get to another location, and will they actually interact with each other in any way, or are they just going to be ships that pass in the night? It's going to be very interesting. I really also hope that these citizens, like we're used in Cities Skylines 1, where you'll have, say, Steve Smith and Deirdre Jones living in the Hawthorne residence. Well, the Hawthorne surely that should be the Smith residence. And things like that used to really bug me with Cities Skylines 1. And I have been known to go and rename every single house in a town with the street address. And one thing I have seen is that these houses are going to have street addresses, which is a massive improvement.
Right, absolutely. Big improvement. And I think a lot of those little details that will be revealed over all these dev diaries, it's just going to get more and more things like that we're not seeing at face value yet.
Yeah, true. Now, that's one thing that I spotted. One thing that I thought that I'd spotted that I was wrong about. Yes, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but all the numbers add up to say that I'm wrong. So I'll say I have said, sorry, internet. Hexagons are schmexagons. Hexagon tiles. It could still be a hexagon tile map, but the math doesn't add up to say that. We're going to get onto the maps a little bit later in today's show, but hexagons, it looks like I'm very much wrong. However, there is something that you picked up on last time you were on the show, which I think needs a little bit more discussion, and that is a quote regarding the lighting being physics based. And the last time you were on, you picked up on the shadows on the buildings and saying how crisp and clear they were. So, what are your thoughts on physics-based lighting?
Well, I think it's very advanced. I mean, it's part of the reason that the game is recommending a 2080 Ti. And, these kind of graphics are going to really make things pop. But I could immediately, it was my first impression, my first takeaway from my reaction video. Check it out at This Old Gamer. That's the first thing that I saw was just how in-depth the shadows looked. It looked like you had everything cranked up on every mod you've ever seen all at once. And, to see that that's part of the base game, wow. I mean, it's going to make a huge difference, and it's going to be interesting to see like just how the latitude and longitude affect that and all the different angles and all that. I mean, it's going to really make things look awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. The latitude longitude thing, that is going to be something a little bit different. We're assuming there's going to be a map editor. All right, it hasn't been confirmed that I've seen in any location yet, but I can't imagine that there won't be a map editor. And if there's a map editor, there's obviously going to be settings where we've had limited settings before. Now we're going to be setting whereabouts it is in the world. That is something just a little bit beyond what we're used to doing, and it's going to be very interesting as well. Be interesting also. I'm still really hoping that there'll be an in-game terrain import function. So if we're going to be saying latitudes and longitudes, it'd be absolutely amazing if the game could then automatically go and pick the terrain, the height map from that part of the world, and just import it directly as an option. Not as an absolutely this is doing it for you, but just as an option. I think that'd be a really sweet thing.
That would be sweet.
And that's it. Right, okay, let's move on.
I was blown away, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Economy would be the next thing. So we know there is a brand new economy feature coming in and how everything interplays with each other. Again, I'm going to be reading the quote from the website. Again, this is also includes direct quote from Marina. So, companies find locations with good connections. That's already blown me away. That first line. Companies find locations with good connections. So my mind is just exploding. Anyway,
yeah.
Sorry. With good connections to resources and access to the workforce. So we need good connections for people to get into work. We're going to need good connections for the resources to get around. And will adjust their production in real time to help boost their profitability. The various new material resources allow for a deeper business simulation as companies sell, buy, import, export, and refine the resources into goods which are then sold to citizens and to other companies. And then the quote from Marina, even with all this added depth, the economy simulation is designed to balance itself out in most cases in order to provide the player a smooth playing experience. The economy simulation helps out beginners and newly found cities to succeed, but more experienced players can delve deeper into the simulation and work out its intricacies to fine-tune their city more. So, right, we'll start off. Companies finding good locations and adjusting their production in real time.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive, and I think that with the first game, we had green tiles, blue tiles, yellow tiles, but I think there was a lot of gray area tiles, if you see what I'm
Oh,
saying.
yeah.
Yes, sometimes the economy was a little hard to follow, especially as a new player, and I think these little details like this, and just you look at the AI and just a few videos we've seen, and or I say the UI, not the AI. We don't want that to take over just yet.
No.
You look at the UI and you see there's a lot more details and everything that you're seeing, and um, that's just going to be just another feather in the cap.
Oh, man, yeah. Man, yeah. But say, adjusting production in real time, this is going to a level, an unprecedented level, in terms of previously there'd be a factory, it just wants to have stock or it wants to sell its stock. Now
Right,
it might have stock levels, and
right.
where with industries, so to a degree we are incorporating industries into base game, and that is just magnificent. Be interesting to see what these new material resources might well be. Have you any speculation? It is all speculation. Have you any speculation on that?
Um, no, wool. I'm thinking wool's going to be on the game.
Wool.
Uh, yes, for no apparent reason. I mean, there'll be all sorts of. I mean, there are options. There's so many options. We just scratched the surface barely on City Skylines 1 with the Industries DLC, and yeah, it does appear like a lot of the industrial DLC stuff is going to be, in the base game. So that's good. That's a value for the price of the game for sure. Having all those little extras added in.
Well, there you go. You see, I asked you for feedback and you came up with wool. I knew you'd be sheepish about this. My apologies.
Here, Bon.
I've just seen my viewing numbers drop massively after that one. Right. Okay, so
Want wool.
yes, give them wool. Cotton fields, that's what we need. We need cotton fields. Anyway, yes, so yeah, now it sounds like they're kind of with the economy simulation. It's she says it helps out beginners and newly found cities to succeed, but more experienced players can delve deeper. It does sound like it's been in some ways dumbed down to make it almost run itself, unless you want to tweak a city to actually rinse more money out of it.
Yeah, and like we heard a little bit about like parking and these, we talked earlier about citizens having different ideas of what they're going to do and all that based on what works best for them, and they find how to get to these jobs and all those kind of things. And I'm not sure if Miss Helicopter talked about this, but the parking, we'll be seeing where they have to find the best parking route. Some citizens don't want to pay for that parking as they don't want to pay a premium for the parking and things like that. And we'll see how that actually affects those industrial buildings, which in turn will affect the economy. So that does not sound easy for beginners to me.
This is true. Yeah.
So that's something that's kind of like this is like a double-edged sword in a way, but we'll see.
Well, it'd be interesting to see whether we can set individual pricing for parking lots as well, because there certainly is the vibe that we're going to have different levels of parking in terms of pricing. Right. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Now, on to the last bit, which is regarding what I'm going to call, I don't know, confusing. I start in my headlines. I started writing with the word misleading. I don't think misleading is a word. It's not misleading. It's confusing, and that is first of all the map size. Now, obviously, in City Skylines, we want the biggest, boldest, bravest map that we can get our hands on.
Crash my computer.
Yes, and the quote is that the new map is much, much bigger. It then goes to let you know that there are 441 tiles which can be unlocked in any order. Now, before I give you any numbers, how much bigger than the City Skylines map do you think a City Skylines 2 map would have to be for it to be, quote, much, much bigger?
Well, I don't think there's any way exactly to tell, Bonbon, because like I said a long time ago, we don't know how big these tiles necessarily are in comparison to the tiles on Cities Skylines 1. I saw that same thing about the 400 and whatever tiles. I mean, it seems massive. Just from hearing that, it seems massive. But I just don't know, especially we know the buildings are going to have a larger footprint. So, I'm not sure how that's all going to balance out. To answer your question, it's going to have to be a lot of tiles. So that might equal the same amount. We'll see. We'll see how it feels, because I think that's like the buildings are going to change that vibe in some way.
Well, it seems like I've got some news for you then, because we know how big those tiles are going to be. Each individual tile will be 600 meters by 600 meters. The overall playing area, building area, city build area, will be 159 square kilometers. Now, that sounds huge, right? That actually works out, the 441 tiles works out as a grid of 21 tiles by 21 tiles. Now, in terms of comparison to City Skylines 1 map, a 3x3 bog standard 9 tile square, which is what I know we've moved on to 25 tiles as a base, but 3x3, that is a 33 square kilometre buildable area. A 5x5, the 25 centre 25 tiles, is 92 square kilometres. It's actually slightly over 33 and slightly over 92, but I'm rounding. So that there is a 92 square kilometre, and we're looking at 159 square kilometres. Now, what I think is going to, I don't know, just put a few people off, possibly, is that the 9x9 grid that we are used to as a whole City Skylines map, that is actually 298.6 square kilometres. Which means that the new map, the buildable area, is going to be substantially smaller than an Unlock 81. So the new 21 by 21 will be 481% the size of the 3x3 grid. So yes, it's much, much bigger. Can't argue that. It's 172% larger than the 5x5 tile. So that is, I would say, not much bigger, but much bigger. But it is only 53% the size of the 81 tile Unlock. And if you want an absolute set of numbers to work with here, the 21 by 21 in real terms is about 6.5 tiles by 6.5 tiles square in City Skylines 1 terms. And if you want to know what the entire City Skylines 1 map would be in City Skylines 2, that's about 28.7 tiles square. So lots of numbers there. Does that sound big enough?
Lots of numbers. This has been advanced mathematics with BonBonB. No, yeah, it is a tad bit disappointing to hear that in some ways. I can say that of the couple of maps, because I've really just stayed on one map basically the whole time I've played Cities Skylines. I started other ones, but as far as the one I put the most detail in, and to this day, 3 years later, a good portion of that map has not been used. So, on one side of it, it does sound like, oh, well, that's a little disappointing. But I mean, I don't really use a lot of that space in some ways, and so maybe ultimately for the player, it's not going to matter when it's all said and done. And at this point, everybody's so excited and they're getting they want as much news on the new game as possible. We still don't have a lot of, it's one of those things until you play it, I believe. You're not sure how it's going to necessarily feel.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? It probably doesn't.
Absolutely
I
does.
noticed that you stayed, you kept the confusing topic till the very last. Is that because of your guest?
We got yes. Well, we got one last thing to squeeze into the last 2 minutes of the show, and that is another confusing number. Another quote here: "You can boast over 4,000 building assets." You can boast over 4,000, and yet we are currently limited at 49,152. So I can only assume that means 4,000 different assets. But I didn't realise that we actually had an asset count limit in City Skylines 1.
Well, that sounds less, a lot less. But I mean, that might be, like you said, based on 4,000 different ones, and the game used, the first game used several techniques to get around what the system and the Unity engine was trying to accomplish. So it's possible that you're going to get a lot of difference and it'll make up for it in some way. We'll see. And mods, of course.
Of course, mods. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I thought I'd cover that one because I know there have been a couple of people say to me, you can only put 4,000 buildings down. And clearly that's wrong. Clearly we can put down a lot more than 4. I think it is just a question of different sorts of buildings. I'm just surprised, mind you, as this was on the Xbox website, maybe that was more tailored towards their systems.
Right, yeah, the PlayStation one wouldn't have done that, of course.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. Right, so, well, we're pretty much towards the end of the show now, so if you've got anything to announce for your channel, now is going to be the time to do so.
Oh, well, I've been doing some live streams. They've been a lot of fun, and I've almost got my last episode of the airport ready to go, and yeah, having fun building some cities again on Cities Skylines.
Right, well, the link to This Old Gamer's channel is down in the description, but we're about done now. I'd like to thank everybody, thanks for watching, and thank you, John, for being on the show.
Thank you.